investing is often seen as a gut feeling game. We know it's actually about weighing dozens of complex factors like team strength and revenue growth. Most of this still matter, but I imagine there are new signals you look for in the age of AI that you didn't before. So let me start by asking what type of indicators you look for now in the era of AI that you don't look for 5 years ago. Sanyu, maybe we'll start with you.
Yeah, I think it's the signals that we look for making an early stage investment hasn't really changed just because it's the era of AI. We still look for companies who are kind of solving the real world problems, building something useful. And instead of building features, we're looking for companies they're actually building product that can be integrated into the workflow. So I think that principle has not changed just because AI has become the most important tool and technology of our time.
Jagger, what about you?
Yeah, so we have probably a different perspective. So we're obviously a big data company. And in the old days, people would use Crunchbase to say, well, it's been 18 months since their last funding round. It's probably time for them to go and raise again. And so that would be the signal. Now in the world of AI, we've got all this data, and we're able to go and look at things like usage data and edits and all sorts of data that our typical users don't have access to. And we can actually use that to then signal it's about, like they're probably fundraising right now, or they're just starting to ramp up. So you think about like a founder going and editing their profile and then going and there's an influx of investor traffic to the company profile page. That's a signal that they are a hot-ish company probably going through fundraising. That's a signal now that we weren't able to do before. That prediction takes now LLMs and all sorts of processing power to go and do correctly. So we have this sort of like greater than 90% accuracy rate on those predictions. That becomes an investor signal so investor can go and say, well, which companies am I interested? Which ones are going into a fundraising cycle now? That becomes a signal that helps them understand where they should spend their time. So it's a long-winded answer, but I'm excited.
Quick follow-up question to that.
Yeah.
What is it about generative AI that allows you to track that data that you didn't have before?
Sure.
Like, is something changed in the technology?
Sure. There's a bunch of answers to that. One is, if you think about usage, we have 80 million people using it. That's a big unstructured mess of data, and like trying to make sense of what are the patterns in that data that signal that a company is going to get acquired or is like thinking about getting acquired, or an investor is thinking about changing their thesis to go after a new type of investment. Like those all lead to different kinds of predictions. Who is going to do the fundraise? Who is going to do the acquisition? That mess of data is something that we've always had a challenge with, right? So we think about LLMs in general and us sort of taking the knowledge that they have and compiling it with the data that we have, we can go and use the generative AI to say, what is the prediction of what this is going to be? And it figures out that I am not a technical guy, so bear with me here. But it figures it out for us on what are the extreme 19-step pattern that leads to our predictions being fairly accurate. And that is our own flavor of generative AI. And of course, and then as we communicate that to our users and having MCP servers that allow the investor to ask the question programmatically through agents, all of that is generative AI and LLMs.
That's wonderful. Us as journalists need that information because we always want to be ahead and figure out who's going to get funded next. Santiago, what about you? Has anything changed and how you evaluate?
Absolutely. And I think I agree that fundamentally the business is still the same. But our behavior is changing. We're creating technology internally, and we're looking at different ways to approach these opportunities differently. So at 500, we're an international VC fund. We invest in the early stage everywhere in the world, and definitely here in the US. And so I had an opportunity to go and talk with some of the different investment teams that we have internally and ask this question, right? And one of the things that I noticed is that things that we didn't do as much. One of them is reading research papers to see who is publishing, new research, and then cold calling these people before they even think about creating a company. Another thing that I think that we're doing more is tracking where people are working and using that as a signal, especially if there is any idea that someone will leave either a stable job at a big company to start something new. We want to be there when they are starting to think about this. Definitely, we're building some internal tool and relying in providers like you guys to get more data and try to do smart things with that. But I'll give you one that I think it's very different than this, which is more like a personal answer, like what I'm looking for, which is just fun. Which I think it's a very different approach. I think a lot of what we've seen on generative AI has been approaching more the enterprise. It's trying to do more like B2B sales. It's trying to do a lot of compliance. And then some of the more fun and different and just like random things that like we see out there seems to be like some of the things that are growing the faster when they actually achieve that. So of course that's in part of customer behavior. Like we can see, the engagement when the customers are doing it. But that's one of the filters that I'm trying to have. It's just like, hey, is this actually generating something that it's fun, different, making, like whatever workflow that they're doing, like really radically different. Yeah.
Is it hard to find something that's different? Because, for instance, we are seeing we're seeing like if something gets funded in an area and it was funded by kind of a top firm, they're often fast followers. There's going to be another company in that area that is also going to raise, and maybe 3 more or 4 more, and they all kind of get in competition with each other. Are you seeing a lot of that?
I mean, absolutely. I had an opportunity to walk across like this whole expo the last few days. And like that was one of my key insights, is that how hard each one of these companies have just expressing their value proposition in a way that is exciting, but at the same time that it doesn't sound like so general that it seems like, you could be talking with any one of the companies and it sounds like a very similar pitch. I think like there's a lot of concentration of that. And that's why I think like definitely the human aspect of this and just finding those different angles is so important.
Okay. Okay, so you've invested already. This is a seed company, right? And it got going. But besides revenue, what are a couple of metrics that prove that company actually has the potential to break out? Like what are the other signals? It's a going concern already, right? So Sangyu?
I mean, I think it's other than the revenue, I think it's a kind of the ability for the organization to grow and learn and adopt. And I think it's one of the significant change over the last 12 to 12 for month is that every day there is a kind of new breakthrough, new innovation and technology. So I think the kind of assumptions about the platform and technology that the founder started with has also changed in terms of its kind of capability and a limitation and a potential. So I think the another very important aspect in this time is that ability to adapt and grow and have that growth mindset. I think oftentimes we talk about the organizations that grow at the exponential speed to be successful and then really to truly break out. And oftentimes the founders and the team only grow at the linear speed that's not like fast enough to really cope with that the required the speed. So I think that's the ability to kind of learn and grow at the pace required is another kind of important aspect that we're looking for in founders. And I think it's their ability to grow into that leader who can work with the larger organization than the companies that they have started with.
Do you have a viewpoint?
Yeah, of course. I'll try to keep it brief. It comes down to what's the defensibility, right? And how do these companies survive this innovation wave that's happening all the time? And I'm of course biased, right? I think proprietary data is one of those things because how does AI do it? It can't. If you've got the only source of that data, you win. But there's other things too, right? Are you a foundational piece of this thing that's growing, and are you always going to stay on the bleeding edge? That would be what I am looking for as an investor. But what's hard is if you're just building on top of it, you are a thing that can be easily replaced. So I asked this last year. I don't know the answer of like how many companies that were here last year don't exist now. And then the same question now, of all these companies that are here now, who is going to exist in a year? So there's sort of this, if you're building something cool and you're getting lots of traction, you've got revenue, awesome. Sell your company as fast as possible. If there's not something super defensible, if there is, keep going because you'll be the winner. But that defensibility, honesty is like what I would be looking for as an investor because there's a lot of people that are not.
Yeah, on my side, I would love to have the numbers from HumanX last year to this year. And I think that's a very interesting insight. I feel like revenue it's a very weird like metric. It's very easy to play with revenue if you see as a run rate. There's people who put like in the same bucket like something that is maybe service revenue, and like it's very hard. It's also very something that investors look very differently depending on the geography. So I feel like outside of the valley, especially internationally, investors do want to see revenue to fund the next companies. When I think like here, sometimes people are willing to subsidize the usage just to be able to get the market first. So definitely revenue is not our number one metric that we look at. And depending on the stage, we're going to be looking at all of the other metrics that have already been mentioned. One that I would mention on the really early stage when we're still iterating towards product market fit, something that is important for me is the velocity where they are iterating and learning. So that can be either experiments or commits or lines of codes, which is not the right metric. But at least I want to see that the company is learning very fast, because I feel like in a very competitive landscape, whoever is going to get to like really hard like problems and solve them is someone who's learning really quickly. So that's really important for me, especially in the super early stage.
So there's also, you also said learning. So learning, iterating, and adopting.
Yeah.
That's what you mean. Coming back to moats, you said one moat that you're seeing is data. We're obviously seeing a lot of the foundational model companies come up in to the application layer, and there's a lot of fear that will Anthropic build this, will OpenAI build this. Kind of, how do you think about moats, and what's your signal, and what's the signal you look for that this company can theoretically protect its own moat?
Yeah, I mean, I think I do believe data is the most important moat in the era of AI. So we look for companies who kind of are successfully building that type of the data flywheel. So like as you do the business, I think it's that they can continue to collect proprietary data that's not available elsewhere, and I think that can make their models and their technology even more stronger and be more attractive and relevant to their target customers. And I think in addition to that, I think what's important today is that what this AI, technology enables us is really populating the world with more software. I think the world is kind of massively under softwareized. I mean, there's a lot of opportunity for software to go in like a small, medium-sized enterprise to make process more efficient and more data driven, and kind of apply more kind of insight in their doing businesses and interacting with the customers. So, but then those work processes are not necessarily like standardized. So what we see is a lot of the companies who find, in addition to just a revenue, and work alongside with this kind of future customers and be integrated into that kind of the last mile delivery of the service and have access to that kind of proprietary customers, that it becomes really hard to be replaced. So I think that kind of last mile delivery and orchestration of the layer is a kind of ability that we see, and how much the founders have achieved is also becomes a signal in making sure that the company has a defensible moat and a value that's going forward.
Your data, right?
Santiago, anything besides data? Because data has been the moat for a long time, but there's got to be something else.
Right. I mean, like it's like this extremely fast shifting of capabilities with very concentrated capital and very concentrated opportunities that is leading to like crazy amounts of competition. That is super hard for entrepreneurs to go and find those modes, and it's hard. I feel bad as an investor every time that I'm asking on the pitches, like, hey, what's your mode, right? Like it just feels like it's such a tough question. But when I look at the portfolio and the companies that I'm super excited about, they're not like some of them have the data, some of them have like some other like specific aspects. But in general, the reason I'm super excited about a company is not because of one single thing, right? It's because they are making this extremely hard thing, which is creating a startup, actually work through a lot of different angles, through having velocity and really moving quickly, to having taste and do it really well, to having some hack to try to get distribution when they have relatively less resources than everyone else in their field that might have like more resources. So I think like when I think about those modes, it's really like going back to the fun and the human aspect of this. Is like it's really the breaking your mind to find those answers about how do you make it work with the resources that you have, and that's like creativity, that's grit, that's the talent that they have, it's the taste, and using all of that very very quickly. And I know like that sounds like super hippie, or like it's not like a business advice. Like, well, what's your strategy? Like have taste. No, but like honestly, like ultimately it will boil down to that.
It sounds more what I said at the beginning of the session. It's a little bit more. You go with your gut.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
you have to when you see it, you know it, right?
Yeah, and it's tough because it's like how do you advise someone on this? It's like step one, be successful to be successful. Like it doesn't work,
Yeah.
but it really is like breaking that like all the challenges of entrepreneurship, which are so many, and then finding founders who are willing to take that battle with very few resources and just go in that competitive landscape to do it. And that there has to be something either on the mission or the culture or the approach that they are using, the technology, the data, that makes more people want to rally like behind that idea. And then like things get inertia, and then like magical things happen. Yeah.
So it's often said that VCs use pattern recognition, and one thing I hear is that they look for a specific kind of a founder. So I'm wondering if the type of founders or teams that you look for now has changed in this wave of AI.
Yeah, or
I just look at the broad data, right? If you look at what do founders look like, we certainly know who the founders are in Crunchbase. We look at it and we analyze it. What's interesting is they tend to be first-time founders, right? There's a lot more of the first-time founders now. Second, they do tend to be younger. Yes. And then the third is they're more generalists, I would say. Like like having that GTM like CEO is less of a thing. It's now, especially in the early stages, I can do all the things with AI, and I can keep my employee count very low because I have the ideas that can can push the various departments of my AI agent team. And so I think that's the trend: is that generalist who has strategy ideas around all these different areas is the emerging new founder archetype. That certainly isn't dominant, but it's certainly rising.
Yeah.
And by generalists, are they technologists or are they just savvy business people?
I think they have opinions about how to do all the things, and I think the ones that have less of an idea of how it used to be done have an advantage because they approach it like, how do I do this now? And I think that is a question. A lot of people are still stuck on how did I used to do it, and that's actually kind of aging out.
Yeah, I think like for me, the question like splits in two different parts, like how the landscape is changing, and then what we're actually looking for. So definitely, Gen AI is removing barriers to create a product and put it online and try to sell it. So now we see a broader like profile and pool of just people from younger to older to from different backgrounds just coming to us with a product and clients, and suddenly they have revenue, and it's super interesting. But on the other side, as I mentioned, I feel like it definitely feels like a really tough moment to be investing just because of how competitors are, the spaces are like so competitive that I think like we're generally trying to find people with a lot of agency that are very generalistic, and then they can just go and take any battle and with very few people try to get to at least to a certain amount of traction. And funny enough, like I kind of like reacted when you say that it's mostly first-time founders, because when I see your data of what we're investing in, it feels like we're investing a little bit more into second and third-time founders than before. I don't know if that might also have to do with people iterating quickly and maybe failing one or two times more, in less time. But we definitely are finding ourselves investing more in people who have like a little bit more experience than before.
And you're probably different from other accelerators, because I obviously go and look at what YC does, and a lot of people are actually, they have a 1 minute pitch and they say, oh, I dropped out from Harvard, I dropped out from MIT, and the college dropout became almost kind of an enticing type of a credential to have now. I'm also hearing there's some high school dropout founders, which I think is crazy. So, but I wonder, what do you think about this trend?
So, I mean, I think it's first of all, I think we cannot generalize. I mean, I don't want to have like preconceived notion of what the founder should look like. I think it's depending on the business. I think they can look very, very different. If you're looking building like infrastructure, like critical technology, you should have like kind of good deep understanding of like what the technology does and how it can be innovated. But overall, I think you're right. I mean, we see a lot of the young founders. Like I have a son who started business at his age 11. And he was able to put together using like a Shopify and like a Google Suite. And he had like 3 email addresses, one for CEO, one for like marketing associate, one for sales person. And he said, oh, I did my A/B testing to come up with the best name for my marketing associate, and I found that like exotic European name gets the best response. So I named Veronica, and it all goes to him. And he successfully found this company that sells stuff on online and have had a real kind of recurring revenue. So I think it's possible that like regardless of your kind of educational background or age, availability of the tool and software out there makes it possible. If you have some kind of passion and an idea, you can totally build a business today. And I think I think it's in the past kind of the wave of the new technology innovation. We've been looking. We had a notion of like digital native, right? And then we have a mobile native. I think we're looking for who are the kind of AI native founders look like today. And then they're not the ones who are just kind of automating the existing workflow. They're the ones who are able to think about how we can redesign the overall workflow and how we can redefine what is the role of a human versus software and human versus computer, instead of just kind of replacing some of the kind of part of the existing workflow. I think those are the kind of most exciting founders that we see in terms of archetype.
Okay. Santiago, in the time we have left, if you can answer my question about college and high school dropouts. What do you think of this trend?
I mean, we're still like trying to make our own opinion, and we'll definitely make some bets in, like we have always made bets in super young people. The thing is that we had never seen so many, right? Like recently I was giving a conference to like an online webinar for investors around the impact of OpenClaw on the community. And one of the people in the webinar was a 14-year-old founder who I don't know how got like invited to this event. And now I follow him on Twitter and I have him like on alert so that I can see every tweet. And I'm just seeing his journey, and he's moving fast. He's getting, iterating, he's learning, he's trying to get customers, and it's super inspiring. So yeah, great things will come for sure.
Yeah. Well, we're out of time. Thank you so much. I've really enjoyed this panel.